me. My name is Blakeley, and I am a teacher in the Trenton Education Association. I am active as a member of the LAT team for the Trenton Education Association and the Mercer County Education Association, as well as an alternate for the Delegate Assembly for the NJEA. And like a previous speaker, I was bitten by the political bug relatively early. I was born and raised and live and teach in the state capital, Trenton, where I just realized at a very early age the importance of political engagement and saw what happened if people were engaged. And so there's a rich tradition in Trenton for political engagement, both in the school system as well as the city and county. And so it's something that I love. I went from reciting presidents at 5th grade to now, being active in various different political organizations in the state. So really excited, and I'm looking forward to discuss ways that we can utilize the political system to better our profession and ultimately public schools in the state of New Jersey.
Great.
Sure. Well, there's an old American idiom that states that if you're on the table, you're on the menu. And so if you look at engagement of public educators in the public education system, that would be very apparent. Now, before member engagement in politics, educators were at the whim of political leaders who didn't have a clue about public education. Teachers were fired for the most capricious reasons, gender and racial discrimination was rampant, and public schools were starved of resources. Now, if you look what happened after member engagement in the political process, teachers were able to be real co-partners with elected officials and contributed to not only making teaching a more honored and respected profession, but also making America's free and public schools the envy of the world. It allowed teachers to have the benefits we have now that we hold for granted, things like collective bargaining, pensions, tenure, due process, etc. And now we're in an era where a lack of political engagement spells lower salaries, more onerous testing schedules, ill-conceived curriculum standards, and just a general lack of respect for educators in general. So if we're not at the table, if we're not located in Trenton and DC and our local school boards to craft real and effective public policy for our schools, we are guaranteeing that our public schools will be on the menu. So let's look at the word politics. I mean, politics is Greek for or relating to citizens. So when you look at public education, we are dealing with the education and training of good citizens. Everything we do has to deal with engaging with that citizenship read. And so, public education is the one public institution that most Americans will have some interaction with, either as a student, an employee, a neighbor, etc. And so when you look at public education, it's probably the most political of professions. The political process determines who teaches, what we teach, how it's measured, how long we're in work, how much we are paid, how much we pay in taxes. I could go on how political engagement impacts, both the institution of public education as well as teachers. And so when you look at teachers as the largest employer of Americans, as well as teachers being the largest actual profession, we should definitely understand that political engagement really impacts everything that we do. And so, like I said, I always go back to my initial statement that if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And history has shown us that when we don't engage politically, we become victims. And America was able to have the greatest public school system in the world by the investment and participation of public school teachers.
Great, thank you, Brian. Jarrell, I know you wanted to touch upon this as well, since I know you're very active in both your local and your community.
They happen to be the same place now.
There you go.
But I want to touch on what Brian said. It's really important to understand that there's certain districts or certain types of districts in the state of New Jersey that are under attack. If you look at our urban districts, what's going on in Camden and Trenton and Newark is really about the destruction of public education as we know it. And so I would recommend that you also look at where it's needed at. Because if things keep going the way that they're going, there won't be a Camden Education Association in 10 years. If you look at public employees and how our unions are actually being wiped out because our public employees are being wiped out through privatization measures in our urban centers. And so whereas a few years ago in Trenton, there were, the lunch ladies, the lunch folks were union members. If you look in Trenton also, the security guards were unionized. Now they are not. They are private, controlled, and run by privatized organizations. And so if you're looking for a place to invest your time, your talents, and your energy, I'd really recommend that you look to your nearest urban district and really figure out a way that you can participate, because like I mentioned before, they're coming for us tonight, and they will come to other districts in the morning.
Work Environmental Council, I believe, and what happens there?
So I think it's probably easier for me to tell you what Work Environment Council is and what Healthy Schools Now is. The Work Environment Council is the nation's oldest blue-green alliance. So when I say blue-green, I mean union and environmental alliance. So there's a lot of shared priorities and agenda issues as it relates to increasing workplace safety, as well as our nation's unions. And so this organization, New Jersey Work Environment Council, was created to ensure that workplaces are healthy and safe. And so the Healthy Schools Now campaign is an outgrowth of that work in the health and safety arena. And so New Jersey schools have a significant challenge as it relates to workplace safety, temperature control issues, and a litany of other safe and healthy issues, or rather safe and healthy concerns. And so Healthy Schools Now was created to ensure that every student in New Jersey has access to a health and safety school. And so it's been around for about 5 years. It's been instrumental in a critical way in terms of working with the SDA to address school safety in the 31 SDA districts. And it's had, I believe, 2 campaign organizers previous to me. And I've been very lucky to get started with some excellent partners with the NJEA and other folks that we've been working with. And I can talk a little bit about that work as well during this interview.
Great, Jarrell. And you mentioned SDA there. That, of course, refers to the School Development Authority, correct? Referring to the
Exactly. So the School Development Authority is responsible for the oversight and building of public school buildings and what is called SDA districts. SDA districts used to be the Abbott district. So we're talking about the most economically disenfranchised and disadvantaged communities in New Jersey. Trenton, Camden, Newark, Jersey City, Paterson are a few of the cities under the umbrella of the SDA. And the SDA is responsible for building schools to make sure that there is equity between all of New Jersey schools. And so I believe, and I think most of our partners in Healthy Schools Now believe, that everyone is entitled to a modern, healthy, and safe school building facility. And the SDA is designed and is commissioned to close those gaps and close the disparities that exist among New Jersey's wildly diverse school facility qualities across the state. You know, New Jersey's school quality is a major issue. The average age of school buildings in New Jersey is 60 years old. And so, 60 years old, there were definitely different values and different technologies that existed to enhance healthy and safe schools. And so a lot of the things that we take for granted in contemporary schools are not necessarily addressed in schools that were created 60 years ago. And so that's another capacity that I'd like to talk about with Healthy Schools Now. In this current role, I actually serve as a New Jersey registered lobbyists, and we do work on the legislative front to enhance school building facility quality. And I'd like to talk sometime about that. We also do some media work. We believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And so we ensure that we spread the message as relates to healthy and safe schools through the media as well. And if I have some time, I'd love to discuss some of our entrees into media companies and media organizations to express the need for healthy and safe schools.
And what was that quote, Jarrell? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. I really like that thought. Shining light on this issue on a broader level. And you mentioned earlier, Jarrell, involving families in this. In this, why is it important that our families join with our school staff in combating this issue?
Okay. So, I would say that families have the most to gain from healthy and safe school environments. We are understanding here at Healthy Schools Now that children are our future, and children are the most precious resource that we have, and that families definitely should share that same belief that parents or that students matter. And so we believe that family engagement is necessary to really build the broad coalition necessary to really move against institutions that may not necessarily want things to move forward. And so I'm reminded of a conversation that I had with a fellow community organizer when I actually got this opportunity. I gave him a call and I said, I'm working for Healthy Schools Now. Who could be against healthy and safe schools? And he made the very, very salient point that if nobody was against it, it would be done already. And so that was very, very illustrative to realizing that we have a battle, and we have some folks who feel that everyone is not entitled to healthy and safe schools. And so it's our job to build a very, very broad, inclusive, and democratic foundation to enhance the idea of healthy and safe schools.
So, Jarrell, you bring to mind, as I was preparing for our talk tonight, and I went on the Work Environmental Council website at njwec.org and clicked on Healthy Schools Now, and I found a photo collection of unsafe schools and just different images there taken from our public schools all around the state. And, a big question that I thought of was just why? Why is this happening, and how do we combat this? And you've kind of broken down there, building that coalition, involving the families with our members to put pressure at the political level, right?
Absolutely. So there's another saying in politics that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And so that's why it's very important that Healthy Schools Now and other dedicated community activists are at the table. So I actually have a meeting with the SDA executive director on Thursday to discuss ways that we can assist them in their desire for better and safer schools. And so we definitely believe that this is important. We work with partners across the state, unions, community organizations, governmental institutions, both on the local and state level, to build the capacity to really ensure that these schools are built. So I'll give you a perfect example of the kind of community support that we're talking about and what can be the result of it. So I actually attended the Trenton Central High School in Trenton, New Jersey. And Trenton High was an example of all that was wrong with public schools in New Jersey. It was literally falling apart. When it was built, it was absolutely a beautiful example of the importance that society placed on public education. The beautiful brick building reminiscent of Independence Hall was as long as the Empire State Building was tall. It was absolutely a beautiful, gorgeous facility with state-of-the-art materials, and it really was an example to the entire state that Trenton took education seriously. And so fast forward to the 1990s and the 2000s, and it was clear that Trenton High had outlived its usefulness. It was a place that was infested with asbestos, infested with all sorts of concerns that really made it unsafe and unhealthy for New Jersey's folks, New Jersey students. And Healthy Schools Now was instrumental in developing the political push to force Governor Christie to do the right thing and release funding through the SDA to build a new Trenton High. Now, of course, Healthy Schools Now did not do it alone. I really think the effort for a new Trenton High was really a model effort. We had a very excellent relationship with the local leadership of the Trenton Education Association. We wrote editorials, we did pictures, we spoke to media outlets, and we had a huge rally. So there were a lot of different ways that we built the community support to force the politicians in the state to do the right thing. And, that's just an example of something that we'd like to do. Unfortunately, Trenton High was not the only place, or is not the only place that is concerning. So academic achievement. Plenty of studies through universities, through think tanks like the National Center for Educational Facilities, have really done a yeoman's job of making it firmly in the scientific mainstream that healthy and safe schools is the baseline to enhancing school equity and closing the education gap. And so another thing I'd like to talk about is the psychological toll that poor facilities, particularly in urban districts, have on students of color and disenfranchised students in these particular communities. One thing that I always was clear about was that when I was younger, I realized that my school facilities in Trenton were widely disparate than other communities that were nearby.
By the New Jersey Work Environmental Council, also known as WEC, WEC. He's been on the podcast twice. He's our only Jersey educator guest who has been on the show twice. It's great to welcome back Jarrell Blakeley. Hello, Jarrell.
How's everybody doing? It's good to be here and be in the midst of such an incredible display of dedication to education.
How are you doing?
Well, considering the events on Tuesday, I could be a little better, but I am attempting to hold on, and I'm reinvigorated by the folks here.
So I got to ask you here. I'm going to ask the same question of all of our guests.
Sure.
20,000 educators. What are you getting out of this? What do you pull away from here?
It lets us know that public education is one of the few institutions in America that is so broad and so deep. All too often when we're in our classrooms and when we're in our schools, we don't have the necessary idea of how broad public education is. It's such an incredible display of diversity here, gender, race. It's just incredible to see how universal teaching is and how representative of our society that this profession is.
Is there anything here that's popping out that you're like, I've never seen that before?
Well, I love to see at the corner of First and Fifth. That's incredible to see. As well as Digital Boulevard is a pretty interesting area that highlights the technological aspect of education.
Jarrell, it's great to have you here at the convention, and to see you in person is always extra special. And Jarrell, to do a little check-in with you, what's
Sure.
been happening? You were just on the show, I want to say, maybe a month and a half ago. Yes. Anything been happening in your world, in your work,
Sure.
you'd like to share with our listeners?
Sure. So my name is Jarrell Blakeley, as he mentioned, and I am the organizer of Healthy Schools Now at the New Jersey Work Environment Council. Healthy Schools Now is dedicated to the idea that every student in New Jersey should have access to a healthy and safe modern school facility. And so that work is difficult. We have challenges ahead of us, but we have been partnering with our community partners, our union partners. We had a very successful coalition meeting in September. We're gearing up for another coalition meeting in November where we will have a litany of speakers who will be presenting about issues affecting school facility quality. We have written several op-eds. So I've written about 4 op-eds in the last 4 months. We had an op-ed in August, September, October, and November in different media outlets, including the Star Ledger and the Daily Record, the Times of Trenton, and New Jersey Spotlight. And so we are moving the ball forward in Healthy Schools Now. We're strengthening our coalition, and we are meeting with partners to see how we can advance the idea and promise of a healthier school environment for all students in New Jersey.
So, Jarrell, you mentioned op-ed, and it sounds like you've been very busy writing,
Yes.
thinking, and getting your thoughts out there. If any of our listeners are interested in writing op-eds, what would you recommend to somebody listening in who has never written an op-ed?
Newspapers, and
Yeah.
it's been surprising. I mean, every op-ed that we've submitted, they have basically have what do you call it? They basically published them, and so I would recommend that you just email the opinion department of a newspaper. Um, Folks are always interested in hearing the public's opinion about matters of the day. I would just make sure that the um, topic is timely, that the topic is relevant, and that you maintain an adherence to the word length. And so you want to make sure that it's between 500 to 750 words and that it's timely.
So a great way to get your voice out there, and your
Absolutely.
thoughts, your opinions, your message out there, and it's great that you have taken that on to make the time for that.
Yes, it's been incredible. I mean, we have talked about school funding formula. We've talked about the temperature control bill. We've talked about school privatization. We've talked about lead in public schools. We just had an op-ed published this past Saturday in the Star Ledger where we discussed lead in public schools and drinking water in public schools and legislation that we are endorsing that would address lead remediation in New Jersey.
Jarrell, it's been great.